Hello everyone. This is the second part of engineering graphics class for JLW Assam. So we will continue from conic sections. So section which is obtained by cutting a right circular cone by a plane. So if we cut a right circular cone, this is a right circular cone. So if we cut the right circular cone by by a plane, so this will give us different conic sections. So if we cut the section plane inclined to its axis, and if it cuts all the generators on one side of the apex, so that section is an ellipse. So this is the section ellipse which we get. So if this plane cuts all the generators, then we get an ellipse. So if the section plane is inclined to axis and parallel to one of the generators, then we get parabola. So this is the parabolic section. So if the cutting plane is parallel to one of the generators, so this is the one of the generators. So if the cutting plane is parallel to one of the generators, then we get parabola. And when we get hyperbola, if the cutting section plane is parallel to the axis of the cone, so in that case we will get hyperbola. So here you see the cutting plane, it is parallel to the axis of the cone. So in that case we will get hyperbolic section. Now this is an important point. The conic section may be defined as the locus of a point moving in a plane such that the ratio of its distances from a fixed point and a fixed straight line is always constant. So which means the conic section can be defined as the locus of a point. So say this is an ellipse. So it can be defined as the locus of a point moving in such a way that its distance, so say this is the point which is moving around, so its distance from a fixed point and from a fixed line, the ratio is always constant. So this fixed point is known as focus, and the fixed line is known as directrix. And the ratio is known as eccentricity E. So say if this point is point V, vertex of the ellipse, say this is the focus F, and say this is C point. So this eccentricity E will be equal to distance of the point from the focus. So VF, distance of this point from the focus, divided by VC, distance of the point to the directrix. So this ratio is always constant, which is known as eccentricity. So the conic section may be defined as the locus of a point. So for all points on the conic section, this ratio will be constant. So for all the points, the ratio of the distance between this focus and from the directrix will be always constant. So for this eccentricity, so if it is an ellipse, then this eccentricity will be always less than 1. For parabola, E will be equal to 1, and for hyperbola, E will be always greater than 1. So these are the three important words which needs to be remembered. For ellipse, E will be less than equal to 1. For parabola, E is equal to 1, and for hyperbola, E is greater than 1. Now this is an ellipse. There are some important points to remember about the ellipse. Ellipse can be defined as a curve traced out by a point for which the sum of the distances from two fixed points is always the same. So each of these fixed point is known as focus. So for any point on the ellipse, the sum of distances from its two focus are always constant. So say this point Q, so sum of the distances, that means this is one focus, focus F1, and this is second focus. So sum of the distances, so Q F1 plus Q F2. So this Q F1 distance and Q F2 distance, again this say for C point, this C F1 and C F2 distance, so C F1 plus C F2 distance, again say for point P, P F1 and P F2 distance, so say P F1 plus P F2 distance. So these are the sum of distances from 2 points. So this will be always same. So summation of the points from the two focus will be always same. Then the line passing through the two foci, the line passing through two focuses F1 and F2, it is known as major axis. And the line bisecting the major axis, the line which is bisecting the major axis at a right angle, so that is known as minor axis. तो ये पॉइंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है रिमेंबर करने के लिए फॉर एलिप्स, दैट सम ऑफ distances for any point, the sum of distances from the focus are always constant. So for ellipse, for any point, the sum of distances from two focus will be always constant. Then this is another important point. The normal to an ellipse at any point bisects the angle made by the lines joining with the foci. मतलब अगर किसी भी पॉइंट पे, say for this point Q, the normal to the ellipse at this point, so this is the normal which is drawn at this point Q. So this normal will bisect the angle which is made between the two focuses. So this is the angle made by the two focuses. So normal to any point will bisect the angle which is made between that point and two focuses. So this is also one important point for ellipse. Now for parabola, the only thing is to remember that for parabola E is equal to 1. So next we move to hyperbola. So hyperbola can be said it is a curve traced out by a point moving in such a way that product of its distances from two fixed lines at a right angle to each other is constant. So this is the important point which needs to be remembered for hyperbola. So the product of its distances from two fixed point, that means two fixed point are the two focuses. So this is a focus F1 and this is focus F1 and this is focus F2. So for ellipse we saw that for any point the sum of the distances, say PF1 and PF2. So the sum of the distances between the two focuses was always same for ellipse. But for hyperbola, the product of the distances between the any fixed point and that point is always constant. So in this case, say this is the point P on the hyperbola. So this distance PF1 and this distance PF2. So PF1 into PF2 for any point on the hyperbola, the product of the distances from that point and the two focuses will be always constant. So this is the point which needs to be remembered for hyperbola. For any point on the hyperbola, the product of the distances between the focuses and that point will be always constant, and for ellipse it is the sum which is constant. Now we move to cycloid. So what is a cycloid? It is a curve generated by a point on the circumference of a circle which rolls along a straight line. So say this is the circle. So this circle is rolling on this straight line. So if we consider a point on this circle, so as the circle rolls, so that point, the locus of that point will be known as cycloid. So if you see this animation, so you can see the black circle is rolling on the straight line. So a point which is on the circumference on the circle, so the locus made by that point because of the rolling, that is known as cycloid. So in these cases you only need to remember the definition, what is cycloid, what is trochoid. So for trochoid, it is a curve generated by a fixed point on the circle which may be inside the circle or outside the circle. So in this case the circle is rolling on a straight line. So this black line is the straight line and the circle is rolling on it. So the locus which will be made by a point outside the circle or maybe inside the circle. So in this animation we can see a point which is outside the circle. So the locus of that point because of the rolling of the circle, it is known as trochoid. So the point may be outside the circle or inside the circle, but for cycloid that point is on the circumference of the circle. So if the point, generating point is inside the circle, so then it will be known as inferior trochoid, and superior trochoid is when the generating point is outside the circle. So for this animation it is showing a superior trochoid because the generating point is, so this generating point is outside the circle. So it is superior trochoid, and inferior trochoid will be when the generating point will be inside the circle. Now next is epicycloid and hypocycloid. So the curve generated by a point on the circumference of a circle which is rolling on another circle outside it, it is known as epicycloid. So in this case, the point, the circle, generating circle is rolling on the another circle. In our cycloid, it was rolling on a straight line. So here you see if this animation, the generating circle is rolling on another circle. So in this case, the generating point, the red dot which is generating point, so it is on the circle and the generating circle is rolling on the blue circle. So that curve which is made by the locus of the red dot point is known as epicycloid. So here if you see, this is the rolling circle, this is the generating circle, and it is rolling over this circle. So the point on the circumference of the generating circle, the locus made by it because of the rolling is known as epicycloid. And when the generating circle is inside the outer circle, so in that case it is known as hypocycloid. In epicycloid, the generating circle is outside the circle, and for hypocycloid, it is inside the circle. So in this case, this circle is rolling inside another circle, and if say this is the point, so the locus of that point will be known as hypocycloid. Next important definition is epitrochoid and hypotrochoid. So here also the generating circle is rolling on another circle, and the generating point is either inside the circle or outside the circle. Here in this animation you can see the red dot is inside the circle. So if it is inside the circle, it is known as inferior epitrochoid, and if that generating point is outside the circle, that will be known as superior epitrochoid. And epitrochoid is the locus of the point which is made when one circle is rolling over another circle and the point is either inside or outside. And hypotrochoid is when that generating circle is rolling inside the circle. So here this is the generating circle. So this generating circle is rolling inside the circle, another circle. So in that case it is known as hypotrochoid. And if the generating point is outside the circle, the case which is shown in this animation, so in that case it will be known as superior hypotrochoid. And if the generating point is inside the circle, so that will be known as inferior hypotrochoid. Now the next is involute. So involute is a curve traced out by the end of a piece of thread if it is unwound from a circle or polygon. So if this animation, if you see, so here this is a circle, and say a thread is unwinding from this circle, so that locus of the point made by the end of the thread, that is known as involute. So if you see in this animation, so from this circle a thread is being unwounded, and the end of the piece of the thread, the locus which is made by it, it is known as involute. So it may be from a circle or maybe from any other polygon. So here the example is shown for a pentagon and here for a square. So It may be from the thread may be unwounded from a circle or may be from a polygon. So that is known as involute. The next curve is spiral. So in case of spiral, if a line which if it is rotating about one of the ends and at the same time it is moving continuously along in one direction, so the curve traced out by the moving point is known as spiral. Means if this is a straight line, so this straight line is say moving around this point. So at the same time, when this line is moving to this position, so this point also move this much. Again, when the line is moving to this location, so this point has moved to here. Again, when the line has moved to this position, so this point has moved to here. So it is the definition that if a line is rotating on one of its end, it is rotating about this end, and at the same time a point is also moving continuously in one direction. So it is one point is moving continuously in that direction. So that locus of that line, it will be known as spiral. So when the line has reached here, so the line is moving when it has come here. So this point, which is supposed to be here, it also moved by this amount. When the line is here, so this point, which was supposed to be here, it has also moved to here. So the line is rotating about this end, and also at the same time, the point is also moving in this direction. So that locus of the point is known as spiral. So this is a spiral. Then what is a helix? It is a curve generated by a point moving around the surface of a right circular cylinder or right circular cone. So here if you see this is a right circular cone. So on the surface of this right circular cone, if a point is moving on the surface of the right circular cone, then it will form a helix. So if a point which is moving on this surface of this right circular cylinder, so this will form a helix. That means if it is, there is a cylinder and a point which is moving around the surface, so that will form a helix. Now we have projections, orthographic projections. So what is orthographic projection? When the projectors are parallel to each other and also perpendicular to the plane, so that is known as orthographic projection. Now, if we see a projection of points, now because before the projection of points, we'll talk about quadrants. There are 4 quadrants. When the planes of the projections, so these are the planes of the projection. When the planes of the projections, this is the vertical plane and this is the horizontal plane. So when these planes move beyond the point of intersection, so this is the line of intersection. So when the planes move beyond the line of intersection, so it forms 4 quadrants. So this is known as first quadrant, this is the second quadrant, this is the third quadrant, and this is the fourth quadrant. So this is our horizontal plane and this is vertical plane. So in case of first quadrant, it is above HP and in front of VP. Say if a point is here, so that point is above this horizontal plane and in front of this vertical plane. So this will be known as projection of this point will be known as first angle projection. So the projections of any object on the first quadrant is known as first angle projection, and the projection of any object on the say second quadrant or third quadrant, so it will be different. So in our Bureau of Indian Standards, the recommended one is first angle projection. So this will be first angle projection when the object is in the first quadrant, and when the object is in the third quadrant, it is known as third angle projection. So for third angle projection, if a point is here, so the point is below the horizontal plane and behind the vertical plane. So now if we talk about projection of points, so let's say when a point is situated on the first quadrant. So when a point is situated on the first quadrant, that means it is above the horizontal plane and in front of the vertical plane. So for this, the front view of that point will be here, and the top view of the point will be here. So let's say the point is said to be say 5 mm above HP and say 6 mm in front of VP. So it means this is the horizontal plane. So the point is 5 mm above HP and 6 mm in front of VP. So when we'll draw the projections, so from the front view, if we see, so from the front view we can see that this is 5 mm, and on the top view we'll see this 6 mm distance. So now if we open up this horizontal plane, rotate this horizontal plane, so this is our reference line. So this reference line, and then so 5 mm above this reference line, it will be our front view, and for the point, this 6 mm This will be the top view of the point. So this view, when we will rotate the plane, so it will go below the reference line. Now say when a point is situated in the second quadrant, say a point is situated somewhere here. So in that case, it is above HP and behind the VP. So for that, the projection of the point will be here, the front view, and the top view of the point will be here. So say this is say 8 mm and 8 mm above horizontal plane and say 4 mm above vertical plane. So this will be 8 mm and this 4 mm which is behind the vertical plane, when we'll rotate this horizontal plane, so this point will come somewhere here. So say somewhere here. So this is 4 mm. So when we are rotating the horizontal plane about this line of intersection, so this point will come above the reference line. So if we draw the reference line, then 8 mm above the reference line, this will be our front view, and say 4 mm above the reference line, this will be our top view. Now when the point is situated in the third quadrant, so let's say the point is situated here. So it is below the horizontal plane. So say this is 5 mm below the horizontal plane and say 7 mm behind the vertical plane. So the projection of the point, the front view will be here and the top view will be here, and when we'll rotate the horizontal plane, so that top view will move above the reference line. So here if we draw the reference line, then the front view of the point in the third quadrant, this will come below the reference line. So this will be the front view. So we can see the 5 mm below the horizontal plane in the front view, and this 7 mm in behind the vertical plane. So this 7 mm behind the vertical plane. So when this point will move along with the horizontal plane, so this will go above the reference line. So this will be the top view of the point. Now when the point is situated in the fourth quadrant, so let's say the point is situated here. So for that, it is below the horizontal plane. So say it is 2 mm below the horizontal plane, and say it is 5 mm in front of the vertical plane. So in that case, when it is on the fourth quadrant, So for that case, the front view will go somewhere here. So it is below the reference line, 2 mm below the reference line. So here, which will be 5 mm from the reference line. So that top view will go below the reference line when this plane will move. So this point also will go below the reference line. So it will be somewhere here. So that top will also move below the reference line. So this is the projection of a point in fourth quadrant. Now let's see projection of lines. So the first case, when the line is parallel to one or both of the planes. So if you see this example, so in this case, this line is parallel to this vertical plane, and it is inclined, it is parallel to this horizontal plane, and it is inclined to this vertical plane. So when a line is parallel to a plane, it's the projection on that plane will show its true length. So when we see from the top, so the top view of the line will be this one, and from the top we can see the true length of the line. And also this inclination with the vertical plane, this also will be shown in the top view. And from the front view, when we'll see this line, so this will be the front view of the line. So as this line is parallel to the horizontal plane, so this front view of that line will be parallel to this reference line. And in the top view, so this is the top view of the line. So in the top view, we can see the true length as well as the true inclination with the vertical plane. Now say in the second case, this line is inclined to the horizontal plane. It is inclined to the horizontal plane, and it is parallel to the vertical plane. So when a line is parallel to a plane, so as this is parallel to this vertical plane, so its projection on the vertical plane, that means the front view will give the projection of this line on the vertical plane. So that will give the true length of the line as well as the inclination of the line with the horizontal plane. And from the top view, this will be the top view of the line. So as it is parallel to the vertical plane, so from the top view, it will be seen as parallel to this reference line. And then say for the third case, when it is parallel to both the planes, so from the front view, this will be the front view of the line, and top view, this will be the top view of the line. So here the front view and the top view both will be parallel to the reference line. Now when the line is perpendicular to one of the planes, so here if in this figure if you see, so say this line AB, so this line is perpendicular to this horizontal plane and parallel to the vertical plane. So from the front view, we'll see this, this is the front view of the line, and from the top view, it will be seen as a point. And say this is the line CD, which is perpendicular to the vertical plane. So from the front view, it will be seen as a point. and on the top view the true length of the line can be seen. So when a line is parallel to the plane, its projection on that plane will show the true length. So this will be applicable for all the cases. So here you see this line is parallel to the horizontal plane. So its projection on the horizontal plane, that means the top view will show the true length of the line. And here when the line is parallel to the vertical plane, so its projection on the vertical plane, that means the front view of the line, it will show the true length of the line. Now if we see the case when it is inclined to both the planes, so say this is line one of the planes, it is inclined to one of the planes and parallel to the other plane. So this line PQ is inclined to the horizontal plane and parallel to the vertical plane. So its projection on the vertical plane, which is the front view of the line, this will show the true length of the line as well as the inclination. And on the top view, from the top view, it will show the projected length of the line. When the line is inclined to say vertical plane, so the projection, so when the line is inclined to vertical plane and it is parallel to horizontal plane, so the projection of the line on the horizontal plane will show the true length as well as the inclination, and its projection on the vertical plane, that means the front view will show the projected length. So this is about the important points on projection of lines, and I have covered almost all the important topics on engineering graphics.